dashboard. And speaking of useful dashboard, there are a few things that we must all know even before we proceed. There are a few things we must all know. And can you see my screen? Okay, yeah, you can.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, and you can hear me properly.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So there are a few things we must know about designing a dashboard, and then I've tried to get this result. It's basically explains to the very good extent what should be known. And the first thing is to design for a target. And in our brief today, we are designing for an healthcare organization. So you must know the target at mind. For example, we might design the same dashboard. Target is different. The way it is structured would be different generally because the purpose of each individual who will be using the dashboard would differ to the very good extent. That's why you will see a number of dashboards would have role assignments. So you can assign role to people such that if you assign role to a finance person organization, what they see is different from when you assign the role to say a developer because the priority of each target differs. In this case, it's for health professionals. So we would assume this dashboard are going to be used basically by doctors to very good extent, doctor nurses and basically doctor and nurses, but majorly doctors. Keep everything at a glance. A dashboard. So the dashboard, the most fundamental usage of the word dashboard is not even in design, is in cars. The what you see for anybody who understand cars here, I wouldn't have to explain this, but for others, what you see in front of the car, where you can be able to view the fuel gauge, where you can be able to see the speedometer, where you can see some vehicle compass, accelerometer, and the what we now have in electric vehicles, what you can see in front of you, the driver can see is the dashboard. And the dashboard in the car is designed such that, a driver is driving, and then because it's driver is driving, there needs to be as much as a little distraction. So the dashboard must be designed in a way that the driver can look at it, boom, at a glance and be able to see what he needs to know. I'm driving and I can look at it and be able to say, oh, yeah, I'm driving at 120 kilometer per hour. I need to reduce it. I can see that, oh, my fuel is at this point. There's for some vehicle there. I think for most vehicle actually, you can be able to see the heat gauge. Basically, I don't remember the name of the meter, whatever it's called, but it helps to measure how cold or hot the engine is. At a glance, the driver can look at it and be able to know that this is it. Because so in any dashboard, that is what dashboards are for. The user should be able to look at it at once and be able to make sense of the data. So keep it simple. It's important that you keep it simple. Very, very important. Don't complicate things. The duty of design is simplicity, not that you have to. Personally, I used to say something, and what I used to say is that if you have to design an how-to for your except it's a very complex platform. There are some platforms that are novel and very complex for needs. There are some platforms that are meant to be complex, except in such cases, designing a website that would need the user to read and how to be able to use it. Sorry, designing a website or a platform that will require the users and how to be able to use the platform is not user friendly enough. There was a time where phones used to come with a very bulky manual, and that was the early stages of phones. It's quite understandable. But down the line, phones now come with some phones don't even come with what's it called manuals. I think iPhones don't come with manuals, although they are tips. They now call it tips, which is basically software inside the phone itself. So align the elements. Every element should be aligned in the way you want the user should see it, and most of the time it should be in the way of importance. And there are two basic reading patterns that user used to understand or align themselves with digital content. Sorry, I'm very fast, but that's because of time. We are still just trying to look at the basics. We're still going into design. And if there's a need, when I'm speaking to prices now, if there's a need, I'm very open to a part two or a part B of this particular let's call it class for the lack of better word. So your design must be consistent all through. If you are using bar charts for let's say for example, one of the metrics we are going to be considering today is temperature. If you are using bar chart for temperature, it should be like that all through the platform, not like on the dashboard you are using bar charts, and when you view more, you see pie charts or donut charts. Highlight the most relevant information. Some information are more relevant than others. They should be prioritized. You should be clear with your information. People should look at it like, oh, this is also related to keep everything at a glance. People should look at it and are able to make sense of it. Don't just put 14 degrees Celsius. There should be a label, 14 degrees Celsius temperature, so that the user looks at it, they know that 14 degrees Celsius is the temperature of that's ridiculous. But of that particular patient at that point in time, start from zero. So they say you are showing a bar chart, it should be from zero to whatever number you're going to. Don't start it from 20 because to a very good extent, in the cases where you might not start a graph from zero, for people who did things like geography and physics in school, is when you are able to present a scale. When you are not starting any chart from zero, you should present a scale that would help the user or the person interacting with the graph make sense of the data. Yeah, shorten your numbers. So instead of doing 1,000,059, it's best you just do 1 plus million, 1.2 million. Not don't even write million, just write M in a way that users will be able to understand it. K, M, K thousand, everybody knows that to a very good extent. M, everybody knows what M is million. B, everybody knows B is billion. And it goes like that. Instead of writing maybe 10 degrees Celsius, like spell it out, just use the degree Celsius, the subscript O and C. Show the context. Context must be understand. Okay, this is 1 million. 1 million what? The user should be able to make sense of it. 1 million plus users. So choose the right colors. As much as possible, there's always the 60-30-10 rule. Always follow that. I can't go into details on that. That's not what we're here for. But basically, make sure, for example, you want to show trends. So, and that is what 13 is all about. 13 and 12 to a very good extent. So you want to show trends. Okay, the what's the called the user's temperature is reducing. So and one of the ways to show context, which is number 10, is to be able to do comparison. So this is 1 million plus in comparison to what? So 1 million plus users in comparison to 10 years ago. So 10 days ago versus now, we've added 1 million plus users. So you want to show variations also, which is where I'm going to merge 11, 12, 13 together. Choose the right color. In trying to show variations, sometimes for downtrend, we use red color, and sometimes for upward trend, we use green color. You don't want to use too much of this color so that it does not confuse the user when they look into the dashboard. So choose the right colors in your design. And 12 also, design dashboards, not reports. We are not designing reports. Dashboard should be at a glance. They should be able to look at it. Don't forget the analogy of the car dashboard. They should be able to look at it and make sense of the data without thinking twice. Then leave the noise off. Don't your dashboard and one of the ways you can make it at a glance is if the most important information can be looked at once. Not like it's too populated with too much information. In dashboards, you usually have a lot of information to tender to the user to the very good extent, but you don't want to overcomplicate things. Then the last thing, which is very, very important, is to pick the right charts. Today, we might not be using pie charts, and one of the reasons for that is because pie charts, so there are different kind of charts, right? Which is not something we can really get into also, but the most popular ones are bar charts, there's pie charts, there's tree charts, where you so for humans find it difficult to make sense of area and space. For example, if a room is green in color, dark green in color, for example, just repaint it white, and then all of a sudden, it seems the space is bigger to you because of the reflection of light. So humans, we find it difficult to understand spacing, and that's one of our limitations as humans. Generally, not just not just Nigerians, not just Africans, not just the white. Everybody generally find it difficult to understand to perceive and to be able to understand spacing. And that is one thing pie charts and tree charts does. They basically want you to understand that this element is more than this, basically by using space for you to understand it, which is quite difficult. It's best to use bar charts. You can use some other charts. You can use pie charts, but that is when you are not dealing with too much data. Say you are comparing two things for two things, and one is in pie charts you want to use color. For one is red, one is green. You'll be able to make better sense of it because there are not a lot of elements. But in cases where you are dealing with a lot of elements, just stick with bar charts to the very good extent, so that because when you're looking at bar chart is majorly about height. You can look at it at a glance and be able to say that no, this one is more than this one. Don't forget, at a glance is very important. Eventually, if you have a pie chart and then you design it, the user would be able to make sense of it eventually, but they wouldn't be able to do so at a glance. Maybe they would have to study it for like 2, 3 minutes, and they will not be able to say that, oh yeah, this one is more than this to the very good extent. So thank you very much for. So we're just going to be proceeding. Don't forget. Let me align my screens together so that um we can move faster. Okay, so don't forget our design brief. We are going to be jumping in between these three screens as we proceed. I'm going to be jumping between these three screens. So we are designing for a health organization. I've tried as much as possible to try and oh, I thought I had a logo. I was trying to get I was trying to get a logo to okay, yeah. I was trying to get a logo so that we can just have something to work with. So I've tried as much as possible to have some assets on ground for the essence of our design. So we're going to be using this for our primary color for today's design, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of white space. We are going to be using Satoshi as font. Those things are not. I'm taking part on those because they are not as important as what we are going to be doing today. And then I have my grid system here. So I understand there's going to be recording. So I'm just going to show you briefly. So that much later when you watch the recording, you might be able to make sense of my grid system. So for my grid system, I'm using rows and columns. And then I'm using 8-point grid system. 8-point grid system to the very good extent means that every number that we're going to be working with would be divisible by 8 to the very good extent. Every number working with divisible by 8 to the very good extent. So that's our grid system, a mix of column grid and row grid. Column grid, we have margin 56, border 24, and for our row we have count 1000 and height is 8, type 4. Yeah. So let's call the name of our health organization. Um, let's just call it tracker. Let's call it tracker. We are assuming, okay, the tracker is sounding Russian. So let's do tracker. So, and we're going to be using Satoshi, as I said, as our font today. So how I do my, so we need to set our font size and also our line height. And for the line height, we are going to be doing our font size plus 8. So it's going to be font size plus 8 for any font we use. So in this case, it's going to be 16 plus 8, which should give us 24. So yeah, this is going to be the name of our health organization today. So in a dashboard, one of the things that is important is a sidebar. Why do you need a sidebar? Sidebar would give you an understanding of the most important menu to help your navigation at every point in time in course of your use of the dashboard. So we're going to be creating a sidebar for this purpose. So I'm going to be creating a sidebar, fill that with white color, and don't forget the size of the spacing and the size to be able to get the spacing to be divisible by 8, because I'm using 8-point grid system. The size of our the size the size of our element should also be factored in terms of making it divisible by 8. So we're going to be doing a lot of math here. So 240 should be divisible by 8. So about 240 seems too big for what we're trying to do. So yeah, we can do with 200. 200 divided by 8. Yeah. So we are going to be using 200 for that purpose. So I'm going to add a stroke to the right side to make a distinction. Okay. Just give me a minute. Let me get a color scheme here. I'd love to do all of this from scratch, but because of time constraints, get this color string from here. Okay. Can you confirm? Can somebody just confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, and we can still see your screen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm going to be adding. So to the very good extent, when you are designing, I think especially if you are just starting out, for some people, they've been able to they've been able to understand color to the very good extent, such that they can work with um, any color, the color combination. It's usually about color combination. But then if you are just starting out, it's best you stick with using a lot of white space and using a lot of white and your text color. So try to limit the usage of your primary color to the regular extent to buttons and what have you. So yeah, so our startup name is Tracker. So we are gonna put that here. And don't forget we are designing for a health organization. So which means that there needs to be a primary dashboard after which the let's say the doctor logs in into their account, they would now be able to view individual patients to a very good extent. So I'm using this to make you see my dimension. So the x is 24. That's the distance from the right side is 24. And I need to make it 32 from the y should be 32 from the top. So that's why. Forget about this point. Normally, you shouldn't be having this point. It's because of this logo that I'm using here. So the logo has the width is decimal point. I don't like seeing that. I'm just going to change it to 24. Okay. So yeah. So we are fine now. So and then what are the key elements that we should have here? So we're going to have the first thing we're going to have is dashboard. We are going to have dashboard, and then we need icon to make that descriptive to the very good extent. Let's search our assets. Okay, so we are going to be using this for our dashboard, and then I'm going to set the size of this font to 14. So if the size of this is 14, sorry, that's 18. If the size of this is 14, so plus 8, that's going to give us 22. So I'm going to make it medium size. So you need to design. Normally, if you are designing, like I said, this time is too short for us to go through all of this. But when you are designing, there needs to be different states. So you need to create a component. For example, there needs to be a state where that is displayed when this is click. There needs to be the click state. There needs to be the first state. And I would so much have preferred also to have the over state to a very good extent. So to make these, what I'm going to do here, we are going to, so I just added auto layout to this. I'm going to change the color I'm going to change the color to show that this isn't active at the moment. Let me use this color. So we are going to have this, and then I've added auto layout to this, and I'm going to give it space, an horizontal padding of 8 and a vertical padding of, say, 8 should be okay also. Yeah, and 8. So this is fixed, but I want it to be 24, 24. So I'm going to add 40, make this fixed and add 40 to the width. I'm sorry, that's supposed to be an addition. So I'm going to add 40 to the width. Yeah, so that the X to the left and right can be 24. So yeah, so we have a dashboard. Another thing we should have should be probably there are a number of things that we should have, but we are not going to be looking at all of this. It's important to say that. So we're going to be checking our schedule reminder. So we are going to add schedule reminder. So schedule reminder would be to remind the doctor. It's going to be to remind the doctor of the schedule that the doctor has. I'm going to change this to 4 to give more space here. So, the doctor has several patients that they're dealing with. So it's important to set a schedule reminder. Let's go that schedule, the regular extent. Let's go that schedule. So, and then what else should we have? We should have reports. The doctor should be able to generate an individual or general reports for themselves. So all of these things, I'm just designing off the top of my head at the moment. Don't forget, if you are designing normally, you should do research to understand what the health organization would need, what is important to them, and all of those stuffs. I just want to put that out there. So just to, with the assumption that there might be someone on this call that might not be aware of that. So this is our schedule. We are supposed to have reports also. So we have reports. We have reports. And what else should we have? We should have, maybe we should have a tab where they can view patients. So there should be maybe a tab where they can view all their patients, and let's find an icon for that. Okay, let's use this. So the size of our icon should be size of our icon should be, let's say it should be 20. Let's do 20. So yeah, change the color here. Don't forget we are designing the default state. The default state means if it is not active, that's what the user is going to be seeing. And then what else do we need? Let's do no. Let's just do settings. Settings should be enough. Then some other functionalities that should be here should be notification, which we are going to also try and design. We are still designing the landing page. That's the page the user is going to see. Why can't we see settings here? Okay. So just wanting to put out there also, when you are designing like this, it's better because if you are designing without, let's say, a particular icon path, and then you can't design an icon path for yourself, and the organization does not have an existing icon path, it would be nice for you to use a specific icon path. For example, I'm using different icon path now because I don't have a singular icon path that can cater for my need. And you can see that this is fill and this is not fill. This is line. So this is outline. There are different types of icon. We have outline, we have bulk, we have linear. So this is fill. I don't want fill because it would look different from others. Let me see if I can get, okay, yeah, this should go. So we are going to use an icon that is not fill, that is line. That would be more manageable than if it's fill. Yeah. So we have this at this point. So this should be enough. Now let's overlay all of this together. This should be enough for what we're trying to do. I'm going to put a spacing of 4 in between them. So now we have our menu sorted. So we have our dashboard, we have our settings, and you want to the very good extent. Now let's welcome this user. So we'll welcome Matt. Let's say welcome back. Let's respect the person. Let's call them doctor. Welcome back, Dr. Tolu Lope, to the very good extent. So I'm going to set this to okay. What just happened? Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to set this to 20, the size of this 20 and the spacing to 28. And yeah, so we've just welcomed Dr. Tolu Lope back into the platform. So don't forget, this is the main dashboard where the user will now be able to progress into any other thing they want to do on the platform. So this is 32 from this also needs to be 32. The wide axis needs to be 32 from the top. Yeah. So and then it's also important that you create a spacing between your sidebar and the content outside of the sidebar. So the spacing here is 36. I want it to be 32. 32 should be enough for us. So there's also something that we have not said that we should have said. So it's called the nudge amount. So the nudge amount is how your assets component on your screen moves, the number of boxes they move per spacing. I would assume that everybody knows that. So when you are designing for desktop, the best thing, since we are using 8 point based system, I'm going to set the small notch to 4 and the big notch to 8. So that means if I should use the arrow key to the left, this is going to move by +8. This is what I'm trying to say. So this number should change to 40 when I move by to the left by pressing shift. It will change to 40. So that's what the node amount is all about. If you don't know that, you can probably try to read more around it. So since this is our this now should be, this should be say active now, and this is our primary color, right? So that this should be active because now we're looking at the dashboard. This should be active. So there are different ways you can design your active, right? So, but in this case, let's just change the color of everything. So this should be pink. Let's call it pink for because for lack of the actual colony. So yeah, we welcome Dr. Tolulope back into the platform. This is basically just to interact with the user. So what are the information that Dr. Tolulope might be interested in? You might want to do a sub test if you want to. Let's try to do a sub test. So we are going to do a sub test and Dr. Leader with this. Glad to view back. Forget it, don't mind my content. I'm just trying to add something that a filler to just make sure we have something. So we are glad to have Dr. Tolulope back. And one of the ways we can show hierarchy in design is through colors also. And as much as possible. So I'm saying this to ensure that you are not just replicating most of the things I'm doing. For example, don't use 000 for your black color. And if it's possible to, in some cases, don't use FFF for your white. The contrast is very high, and to a very good extent, make your design accessible. You want to try to be in between to ensure that people who cannot cope with a very bright color can still use the platform. So I'm using 2B2C34 for my black, and then to create hierarchy between the headline and the subtext, I'm going to not use the same color for both of them. I'm going to use another color for this. Let's make this medium and increase this to bold. Yeah, so we've done that. And what are the information that Dr. Tolulope would be interested in if they come to this platform? One of the information, I'm going to do this quickly so that we can move to the main patient report. So one of the things they would be interested in would be the number of users that they have. And this is where it begins. Don't forget the 15 rules that we looked at earlier. Keep it simple, keep everything at a glance, and design for a target. Don't forget we are designing for doctors. And that is what is going to inform us of the information that might be important to them. And one of the information off the top of my head that will be important to them is just drop comments in the call, drop an in-call comment on information that you think will be important to the doctor in this case. I'm going to pick from there, even as we design. So first of all, the number of users, the number of patients will be important to Dr. Tolulope at this point. So let's say there are 10,000 users. So there are 10,000 users. Based on what we've discussed earlier, instead of writing 10,000, it might be best to write 10K users to just make sure the dashboard is not too distracting for Dr. Tolulope at this point. So we have 10,000. So there are 10,000 patients of Dr. Tolulope. Now, the Tolulope has to just look at this and know, so to add a label. So we need to add a label. Let's say active patients. So active patients. That's the number of patients that Dr. Now you need to, so I'm following this. So we've shortened the number, we've shown context. Now everybody understands that everybody understands that 10,000 is the number of users that are present, number of patients that are presently on the platform. Keep everything at a glance. We've done that. Align everything. We see talk about that. So we are going to try to show variation. So we are going to try to show variation. And one of the ways you can do that is to say, let's compare this to the number of patients last month. So there are a lot of ways you can do that really. But in this case, I'm just going to do versus. So let's keep it small. Let's keep it small. It's a label. We don't want it to be too much in the face of the user. So, and then let's the color. So our primary color would be used to regular extent for buttons and for creating, say, so you can add it here, wherever you think makes sense. You can add it to the user. You can add so you think is going to make sense to the user. So another way to create duration in this case would be to say show the trend. So let's try to show the trend to for Dr. Tolilope. So because of time, just going to bring this here. Okay. So okay, let's bring this out here. So let's change this to our font. So basically. So we want to tell Dr. Tolulope that, okay, this is how your number has grown. So because the doctor should be able to, they are doctors actually. So they are, one of the things you must consider when you're designing for this group is their tech savviness. How much do they understand tech to a very good extent? And then you need to put that into consideration. And you also need to understand that these are very busy people. They don't want something that's going to bug them. They want something that maybe that's one of the reasons why tech penetration is low. They want something that can easily just solve their problem without complicating their present predicament. So, and that's what we are going to try as much as possible to do for Dr. Tolulope and our colleagues in this case. So we want to be able to show the trend of what is happening to Dr. Tolulope at a glance. Let's reduce this. We are trying to show trend. It shouldn't be too imposing for Dr. Tolulope in this case. So yeah, let's say this is going to work. Yeah. So now I think there are some comments already. Okay. How about uptrend icon? Okay. Number of patients, number of active and discharged patients, maybe number of requests, number of scheduled patients per day. Yeah. Number of scheduled patients per day might be very important. So that Dr. Tolu can wake up in the morning, look at the dashboard and know that okay, I have 2 patients today. So let's say number of scheduled patients. Forget the content. Normally, you should have a UX writer to put all of these things in the right proportion in the way that the doctor would understand them. So, but before we move to that, let's align this properly. So, we want to use auto layout to put all of this together. So, yeah, so we are going to make this work 16. So, to create a segmentation for that, let's add a stroke. Let's add the corner radius of based on the icon and the fonts you are using. Corner radius of 8 might not be a bad idea. Don't forget, be wise in your usage of color to the very good extent. So it's possible. So in this case, you might want to say this is the most what is it called? So let's just call this visits today. So we are still going to discuss this, but for now, everything here should be the same to the very good extent because you want to be consistent. Should be the same duration. So if you are doing versus last month, every data you're showing here should be versus last month to a very good extent. So and then there should also be downtrend. There should be downtrend. We also might want to show active patients. Let's show old patients. Let's call them inactive patients because patients are not supposed to be active forever. So that's in US writing. We need to also understand that in designing. So let's say old patients, this should be a successful health organization. So let's say they've had 90,000 old patients. So and in this case, when you are using K and N, it helps in expansion. You might, if they click on it to view details, you can show them they should see the actual details, but to view it at a glance, Imagine when they now have, let's say, 200 million patients, if that is possible, it might not contain this particular dimension that you've designed. So because of time, so we have this, let's work with this for now. But normally, based on your research and the need of the user, you might want to create, you might want to have more of this based on the need of the user. So for now, we've been able to design, so there should be downtrend, like there should be downtrend, like the I don't know because I don't know your name, the person in the comment section that brought our notice to it. So we should have a downtrend also. But let me try. Let's try and work something out. So there should be a downtrend. Let's make this downtrend. So I'm just gonna pick the color from it to make it easy. So trying to design a downtrend. But well, if there's uptrend, there should be downtrend also. Forgive the icon. So let's say the number of old patients has reduced because we are not discharging as much people as before. So when Dr. Zola comes on this page, barely looking at this, they should have an idea of what's it called, what this is all about. One of the things that might be important also, let's take this out, since we have just three. One of the things that might be important here, time is on by our side. One of the things that might be important here is to display the patient list so that they can be able to see. So it's just about priority, it's about what is important to the user. They should be able to see the number of patients that they are going to be having today to a very good extent. So let's try and create a patient list. So we're going to call this, let's just bring this one. So we're going to call this patient list. Like I said earlier, we cannot cover all of this. We cannot even finish the design because of the constraint of time. But the important thing is just for you to have the understanding of how this design should go to the very good extent. So so it's also important. You need to ask yourself the question of which data is important, which of this is the most important data. For example, if you want them to always say active patient at a glance, you might consider adding maybe color to this. You might consider making this the primary color, maybe something like this, so that they can be able to see it at a glance when they just come here, because this is what is more important. We want them to see. They can basically just see it at a glance without more stress. So you might want to consider something like this if you think this is the most important data. But if all of them are fairly important and then it's based on whatever they want to look at, you might make all of them the same color. But we are going to leave it this way for now. So we are supposed to have a patient list. Patient list, it's not definitely not going to be everything that they can see. So another thing you might want to do is to add, just saying this, you might not, is to add a filter here, basically to make them select if they want to, the kind of data they want to see, maybe monthly data, daily data, or yearly data, whatever works, or whatever you think is going to work based on the kind of user that you are designing for. Don't forget, the first rule is to design for a target. You must understand your target at every point in time. So let's say a patient name is Tiwale Usman, for example, and so that is 16, that's 24. Our test color, don't forget. So yeah, so you want to create we want to create a table at this point. You might want to add a picture, maybe a picture might make sense in this case, but a picture will not make sense for every dashboard. A picture might make sense because the patient should have secured a consultation beforehand. The user, in this case the doctor, seeing their face might just make things easier for them. So no, that's true, this is Bewal, even without, so the essence is to make things easier for them. So if it's possible for you to do that even without them using seeing the name, it might be something worthwhile to consider. So let's use um let's use a plugin to add an image here. Uh, okay. We're trying to add an image to the list.
I don't
Oh,
know if
this
it's
is.
just me, but I can't hear. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Okay. Wait. Can everybody hear me? Have you been hearing me before, or that I can know? Okay. Okay. Thanks for the thumbs up. Why is my avatar not adding? Okay. Because of our time. Let me run let me run that program again. Okay, so don't forget this. Let's imagine this doctor is waking up in the morning. So let me just fill this with the random column then, since it's not coming up. And let's use their name initial DU. But you might want to add what is it called? You might want to add an image there because the essence, my thought process for adding an image to this is to enable the doctor to be able to see who the patient is at a glance without maybe not even seeing their name. So don't forget, one of the things this doctor might be interested in, maybe they wake up in the morning and they want to know the patient that's visiting them today. That's one use case. So we might want to design this in such a way that it would be able to filter based on the day. So let's change this to today, and we need an arrow to show that it's a drop down and they can make a selection. We need okay, the arrow we need is not it's not in this icon path that I have here. So sorry, let me try. Let me look for an icon somewhere else. Okay, this icon that I'm using are not serving me well. Okay, so we are doing this to help them know that they can make a selection. It's a drop down. That's the reason for this year. So Dewale Usman is visiting Dr. Tolulokwe today for whatever reason. One of the things that might be important for them is also to know the time they are visiting. Say they are visiting by 10 p.m. They're going to be visiting a doctor's night shift. So they are visiting the doctor by 10 p.m. That would be very important. And the doctor, one of the things that would be important that I think would be important is also for the doctor to be able to, because the doctor, you want to make the life of the doctor easy. That's the reason for this dashboard. That's why you should have a dashboard in the first instance for doctors. You might want to consider helping the doctor to see the summarized file of this patient at a glance. So they want to be able to know their history, and then maybe they have a present prescription going on and all of those stuff. That might be very important for the doctor to see at this point. So this is Diwali Usman. Let's make this auto with this. So yeah, that works. And this case also. So let's just do something like this. And we're going to add horizontal padding and vertical. This dashboard design is. I was having a conversation on Twitter recently with someone. Dashboard design is one of the difficult design or the most stressful. Don't Not really difficult, stressful kind of design that you might have to work with because you are working with a lot of data and you have to make sure that the data is structured in a way that the user can understand and interact with them appropriately. So we are trying to create efficient lists. That's what we are trying to do here. So just imagine what we have here are different names. Just imagine it's more than dually Yusuf's name. So yeah, and then this is patient list to a very good extent. So we have that. And one thing I personally would love to do is such that if they click on Diwali Yusuf, they can be able to see a glance of Diwali Yusuf, Yusuf Usman's data to a very good extent. And what I would also add here, I'm saying this because we are going to move away from this page now to try and go to the individual page, even though we might have only a few minutes to spend together here. So one thing I would like to add here is such that if they click on Diwali Yusuf's name, they should be able to see the summarized information about the wallet. So they should be able to know maybe it's male or female. They should be able to know the age and maybe some other things that is important to the doctor or in the health world. So that will be the main dashboard. And from here, don't forget we have patients here. Patients should be so you should also arrange this particular menu based on hierarchy. It's very important. There is a UX law that states that users only remember the first and the last thing they see. And as much as possible, I'm just trying to state all of this so that I can have a basic understanding of how to design a dashboard. As much as possible, you also want to ensure that you don't have to make too much menu here. So for example, you might have a sub-menu. For example, if you click on patient, now one of the things we would see will be old patient and new patient. You should be able to see that data. So that does not mean you should now write old patient, new patient, and have as many. So let's say you now have a lot of menu here. You want to try as much as possible to be able to group things that work together to the very good extent. So when you click on settings, they might not be able to see the different settings that there are. You might not want to do that. Another thing that we did not do earlier is to say we need to have a place. Sometimes you can put it here wherever you think works for you. You can put it here, and then you might also put it down here, depending on which one you think is going to work best. The name of the doctor, Tolu Lope Smith. That's the name of our Dr. Tolu Lope Smith. And then this will be the image of the doctor. And under here might now be, there should be notifications because notification is very important here because of the nature of this dashboard. Let me see if I can find a notification action just for us to close that. Okay, there's a notification action here. So yeah, so there should be notification to help the doctor see any notification at a glance. That's too big. To help the doctor see any notification that there are for him at a glance. So and then when they click on this should be closer to this. The group elements that are the same. Yeah, basically. So I want to do something like that. They can be able to view the notifications that they have. And then when they click on this, they can see my profile. This will be a drop down eventually. They will be able to see my profile and be able to interact with that. That's very important. So I don't know, but I have another meeting at the moment. Um, can you hear me? People, Brothers, can you hear me? Sorry,
Yeah, I
okay.
can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I have a very important meeting. I wish I don't now. Is it possible we have a part two of this session? Personally, I'm enjoying it.